So, I recently rewatched pretty much, I guess you could say, the second half of Superman the Animated Series, and the closer for that series was a two-part episode where Darkseid kidnapped Superman, brainwashed him, and made him become one of his generals. He then sent him to Earth and basically he attacked Earth, and everybody who believed and trusted Superman pretty much were scared of him, and everybody turned on him. And the message was kind of that Superman, ever since he had started basically being Superman, he was working to gain everybody's trust because he didn't want everybody to be afraid of him because of what he can do. Now, the series went off, of course, like I said, with he beat Darkseid, but Darkseid pretty much won because everybody had turned on Superman. Now, of course, this was solved in Justice League when Justice League came around, but right now we're kind of talking about that. And I'm bringing that up because in this episode of My Adventures with Superman, it's a very similar theme. It's lighter in terms of how heavy it is that they're delving into it, but it's very much the same thing. And I'll get to that in a second. But I guess firstly, let's just talk about how the episode starts off. So, Superman unlocks one of his other abilities, which is his super hearing. And for the first part of the episode, is really, it starts out a bit comedic because he has his hearing, and he's hearing everything in the city, and he's zipping around trying to help everybody, and he's staying up all night and pretty much functioning off of coffee, and he has the bags under his eyes, and he's looking really crazy, but he's basically getting used to this, and he hadn't quite learned how to just hone in on it, or maybe not even hone in on it. It's just that he hadn't learned how to kind of balance it, because one of the things he says when he's talking to Jimmy, you see this in the preview for the episode, but he's talking to Jimmy, he's like, I hear things, and he's like, I hear what people are saying, and he's like, Jimmy, these people are messed up, man. He said something along those lines, and it's like, yeah, if you have super hearing, then that you would hear some stuff that you probably wouldn't want to hear just flying around. Now, while all this is going on, the general has gathered up all the people, all the tech villains that that Slade captured in the past few episodes, and he has tasked them with doing a job. Now, we all know what the job is. He wants them to take down Superman, but he is putting together this scheme while Clark is running around saving everybody across the city from different things like cats and trees and robberies or whatever else. He's doing a lot of zipping around. So meanwhile, while this is going on, Lois and Jimmy are brought to the chief's office, and he's basically like, hey, we got a reporter here, it's a veteran, she needs your help to get around Metropolis and get her story together because we need her for good publicity, all that stuff. It's not that important. The point is, it was Vicky Vale, and Vicky Vale is a known reporter from Gotham City. Again, if you're a DC fan, you know exactly who Vicky Vale is. But her purpose is not only to get a good story, but it's the type of story that she's trying to get. And it's a foil to Lois and Jimmy because basically she wants to write a piece on how Superman is a threat and he can't be trusted, especially because of all his powers and everything. So their portion of the episode is spent with them trying to get her on this goose chase they're trying to get her to talk to everybody who sees Superman in a positive light. So even though she talks to like 4 or 5 people who say good things about Superman, she manages to come across one who has a lot of negative stuff to say about him, which is the guy who was the assistant for Dr. Ivo back in that episode. He basically talks about how Superman is a problem and he can't be trusted with the powers, of course, and all that. And pretty much that's all that not Cat Grant, I'm mixing up reporters. That's pretty much all that Vicky Vale needs, so she uses that to write her story. Now, Lois, of course, is kind of going through this internal crisis of sorts because she's trying to figure out if Superman is actually a threat because, as you know from the previous episode, she saw the footage of the evil Superman across the multiverse. So she's trying to have faith in Clark. And again, with all this going on, she's having a hard time. Now, at some point in the episode, Clark kind of talks to Jimmy and Lois a little bit and is telling them about how he heard the general's voice and he was plotting something, but Clark couldn't quite make out what it was. So he goes on ahead and zips around saving people. He comes across one of the tech thieves, which I actually forgot about this guy, but he was someone who had the ability to turn invisible. And forgive me for not remembering his name right now, but Clark is kind of chasing him, and then in the midst of Clark chasing him, he runs in front of a moving truck. So Clark, who is the only one who can see him, of course, zips up and pretty much pushes him out of the way of the truck, and the truck hits Clark. Now, when this happens, Lois and Jimmy get a ping on their devices, and so like, all right, because all the news is saying is that, oh my God, Superman's gone crazy. He's destroying vehicles and stuff. You know, people are extra on these shows when it comes to that kind of thing. So they call Clark to the roof of the Daily Planet, and like, what's going on? And he's like, this person was there. I was trying to save him, and that happened or whatever. But it's kind of one of those situations where Lois tells Clark, well, you need to try being normal, and he kind of takes offense to that. So he leaves, and they know they kind of put their foot in their, or Lois put her foot in their mouth with that one. So Clark eventually does come across the guy again, and he's like, look, they have my people, and they're going to transport them somewhere, and I'm trying to save them. When they arrive, the ship is already taking off, so Superman pretty much takes off after it. And once he gets to it, of course, then the merry band of thieves pop out and attack him, because obviously it was an ambush. So Superman is pretty much having to take on the 5 other tech thieves and Slade. I'm not going to try to name all of them right now. I know their names, but I'm not going to go through all their names. You've seen them in the previous episodes. You know who they are. But they do a pretty good job. They beat the crap out of Superman, to be honest. And the fight goes so far as that they land in, well, it looks like, I think it's a park. They land in a park, and pretty much again they just kind of all jump on Superman. It reminded me of the Sinister Six in a way, how they kind of jump Spider-Man, but what they are in actuality is the Suicide Squad. That's this universe's Suicide Squad. So, to be honest, I think they might be a tad bit more capable than the regular Suicide Squad. But anyway, they get the upper hand on Superman, and Parasite's kind of draining his energy and everything. So Superman eventually kind of goes into this mode, or if you will, where he boosts his power or unlocks more of his power and manages to get the upper hand on all of them. But ultimately, it's not enough. They end up managing to knock him out and snatch him and take him. Now, Lois and them tried to come and help, but of course, for one thing, they were at the office when they saw it on the news. And then when they ran up there, I mean, they weren't going to be able to do too much helping anyway. So that was pretty much how the episode closed off. Superman's been snatched, and they even had this nice little change where usually the closing credits are like this nice, calm, peaceful credit line where you see credit showing where you see Jimmy walking with his camera and it's all nice and happy, and he's showing his photos with Clark and Lois and all kinds of other stuff. But in this case, this is like really dark and kind of menacing music on it, and it's a good way to kind of show the tone of how the episode went off. So I don't usually do it, but I will kind of mention the next episode preview, which is the Clark is kind of strapped up in this machine that I think zaps him, and the general mentions to him when are the others coming, and he's like, what are you talking about? So apparently the general is expecting more Kryptonians to come. Clark has no idea what he's talking about, and that's pretty much what the preview is. That's pretty much all the preview shows. So again, it's interesting because there might be a multiversal thing popping up sooner than we think. The general might be, it might be something similar to what happened in Superman and Lois, if you ever seen that CW show, because if I'm remembering correctly, the guy, I can't remember his name. I think he was Steel. I can't remember his name right now. But he ended up coming from another universe where Superman was evil. And he came to the main universe to attack that Superman, which was the Superman and Lois Superman. So it could be that the general maybe is from another universe. Again, I'm just spitballing. I don't know for sure. But that's kind of what it puts me in the mind of, because why would he think that there are other Kryptonians coming? Now, of course, we know from Superman history, what's her name? Nala and well, it was Nala and Jax in the Superman animated series. And it's Zod, of course, usually when you're looking at this story. But there's always another Kryptonian or two who's wandering around out there who's gonna pop up and attack. Aside from Supergirl, of course. But we don't know, right? We don't know where they're headed with it. We just know that he's expecting more Kryptonians, and more than likely there probably will be more Kryptonians. We just don't know how it's gonna be handled. But like I said, we will see that next week. Right now, we're going to speculate, right? We're going to speculate as to what's going to happen. So that's all I'm gonna say for this review. I know it's probably not as long as last week's, but it wasn't too much to talk about. And I'm also gonna be I'm preparing to do my Blue Beetle review soon, so you all see that real soon after this video. Spoiler alert, it's good. So that's all I'll tell you. But yeah, so if you like this video, hit that like button, drop a comment to let me know what you think is gonna happen in the season finale of My Adventures with Superman, because I think this is the season finale. Hit that subscribe button, please, and remember, we have the high ground. Catch you later.